Okay, so it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our second webinar presentation of the Department of Modern Languages, Faculty of Arts and Letters, University of Santo Tomas. Our topic is really interesting. It will help us to understand the names of the different places in Manila, not only in Manila, Metro Manila, and why these places were named as such. For your information, majority of these names were Hispanized. Entonces, majority of them were a remnant of the colonial government, and they are very significant because this was the symbol of vibrant community in Manila during the Spanish colonial government. So to introduce to you the speaker this morning, may I call on Professor Royce Randall Lim. Royce, por
Okay.
favor.
Thank you. Gracias. Okay, our speaker for today is Dr. Marco Antonio Joven Romero. He has received a National Spanish Academic Award in 2015. He worked as a Spanish language assistant in Toulouse, France, as a researcher at UNED in Spain, where he obtained his PhD, and as a visiting professor at the University of Santo Tomas in the Philippines. Currently, he's a lecturer and a faculty member at Hanoi University in Vietnam in collaboration with the Spanish Agency of International Cooperation and Development, Government of Spain. He's also associated with the Department of Spanish Language and General Linguistics at UNED. His main research topics are Hispanic linguistics, multilingualism, Asian studies, analytical philosophy, and Aragonese language. Please welcome Mr. Marco Antonio Joven Romero.
Thank
Buenos
you very much.
días.
Buenas noches aquí en Brazil. Boa noite. Good night here in Brazil. So thank you very much for first of all, I would like to dedicate just 2 minutes to say thank you very much, all of you, University of Santo Tomas, Department of Modern Languages, and also Professor Roy Slim and Professor Abigail Pagalilawan for inviting me to set this lecture. I am very, very happy for that because UST and all of you have been the people and the place where I have been happy for the last 3 years, 2017, 2020. I was happy there, extremely happy. I always have that remembrance in my heart every day, every night. It's a shame that we couldn't say a proper goodbye last year because of the pandemic. Classes finished just 1 year ago, a bit more than 1 year ago. I think my last face-to-face class in UST was in March 10, I think. And then, okay, I continued with online classes, but I couldn't visit the place anymore. And I left Manila in July. And since then, I've been thinking in Manila. So first of all, I would like to say you thank you. And also, I would like to promise here and to swear here that I will come back, at least for a proper goodbye, with a lunch or a dinner. I will invite you there, and we have that lunch there or dinner. Yeah, but I need to return. I want to go to Manila, and I want to see you people. So yeah, let's go for it. I'm gonna share my screen in order to share the document I prepared for the presentation here. Yeah, I think it's gonna be right now. So, place names. Why place names? Historical, social, and geographical place names of Metro Manila. Why place names? Well, first of all, place names are a linguistic fossil. What I want to say with linguistic fossil? Peoples appear in territories. Peoples change. And languages appear. They evolve. They change. Some people conquer other people. Some languages move other languages. So there is a linguistic evolution as well as people evolve and change in the territories. And that happens practically all over the world in the history of humanity. But people set names to the territory at least to the different territory or physical features. And these names tend to be preserved more than any other linguistic fact. So, in short, just an example, Spain, the place where I was born, we had a lot of peoples populating Spain. So we have the Romans, as everybody knows, but we also have the Muslims, as many people also know. We had the Visigoths from Germany, or from Central Europe. But before the Romans, we have Celtic people in some places of Spain. In other places, we had Iberian people. So we have a lot of peoples in the history of Spain populating the current Spain, and all of them they set names, place names. They put the names to the places, and we have some examples of all these languages and all these people already preserved. Just as an example, here we have an image of a small village in the north of my region of Aragon in Spain. This village is called Verdun. Okay, Verdun. It sounds to be just a normal word, Verdun. Or, well, it doesn't sound to be interesting, right? Well, Verdun. Ver comes from the Celtic language berg. Berg. Berg means fortress. And we have it all over the territories the Celtic people have populated. So we can find it in Germany. We have Stromberg in Germany. We have Bergamo in Italy. We have Bergerac in France. And we have many other examples all over these countries and all the countries where the Celtic people were. Dunum means high position. So Verdun means a fortress in a high position. If we see the current village, we can easily imagine why the name, right? So the idea is that these people populated the area and this hill more than 2,000 years ago. They disappeared. They were substituted by other peoples. The peoples there evolved, developed their own languages and their own cultures, but still the name remains. So place names in this way, I want to show with this example that place names are linguistic fossils. That's why I'm focused on place names. Previously, I did some research on place names in a small area in the north of Aragon, in the mountains, not really the mountains, before the mountains, but still close to the mountains, an area called La Fueva. I did some research before in 2012 there. Anyway, no, yeah, 2012, 2013. Anyway, I stopped doing that research, but I got some skills and the interest was always there. So when I arrived to the Philippines, I decided, I remember that I arrived to the Philippines and I was at the airport. At the head of the department at that time, Professor Cornelio Vascara, was waiting for me. And we took a taxi. We went to my first destination at UST. And I remember that my first images in the taxi there in Manila were focused on the jeepneys, on the sides of the jeepneys, where you can see the names where the jeepneys, the route of the jeepney, yeah, with the different names the jeepney goes through. And I realized that there were a lot of Hispanic place names and Spanish place names. We could find Rotonda, Avenida, yeah, and many other names, Intramuros. So I was interested with place names from the very first moment I arrived to Manila. Actually, that's also interesting because Manila and the Philippines, as we know, during a time, the Spanish language was the main language there, at least the powerful language. I wouldn't say the most spoken language, but still the most important politically and economically speaking language. But as we all know, that situation changed, and there was a switch into the English language. But still, place names are there, and most of the place names I found in Manila were Hispanic. So why not to study that? And the study of place names in Manila was not developed, and still it isn't. There are a few words, practically two. One of 1977, Streets of Manila by Izagani Medina and Lunin Ida, and the other one is the Luyan, a dictionary of streets of Manila, which was published in 2006. But little more, and they are not exactly studies of the toponymy or place names of Manila. So I was interested from the very first time, from the very first moment. I was really interested on place names. I decided at the first time I was thinking about doing it, doing a study on place names in the whole Philippines, in the whole country. But all of a sudden, quickly, I realized that that was impossible. That the country had a lot of place names, and I would need a lot of lives in order to comply this kind of research. So I decided to focus on a specific area, and I finally chose Manila. And then specifically on Manila, I had different possibilities. The historical city of Manila, the historical Manila and historical surroundings, or what I finally did is just to take the current borders of the region of Metro Manila, or legally speaking, officially speaking, National Capital Region. So here, for example, here we have an example, Estero de Tripa de Gallina. It's the largest estero, or the largest creek in the city, uh, discharging in Pasig River in Santa Ana, if I remember, but arriving to the south to Parañaque. So this is really long, and it's very loopy. That's why it's called Tripa de Gallina, because it's really, really loopy. The methodology. Well, I mixed three different aspects. I realized I complied. I set more than 800 surveys to 651 informants all over the city of Manila, all over Metro Manila. And I must say, and I really thank all the people at the University of Santo Tomas who complied this service, okay, because they provided very useful data. Many friends there. But not only at UST, but in other places. They also I also found informants all over the different barangays of Metro Manila. And then after getting the first results of the service and compiling a first list, I checked it with historical documents, basically maps. And among them, the most important map is the one in 1898, made by de Gamoneda, Francisco de Gamoneda. This is the last map made during the Spanish domination. And apart from surveys and maps, I did my own field work. Here I am with a motorcycle covering different streets of Manila. Yeah, yes, going to different specific places where I have doubts, where I hesitate about the results, and asking the people there if they were correct or not, or just directly asking about the place names of the area. So I covered the different areas in Metro Manila day by day, just revising the hesitating data I compiled before in the service and the historical documents. And well, this is basically the methodology. Here we have a typical entry. So how I show the data? Well, first I state the name, for example, Azucena. And then I state the typology, a street, an avenue, a building, a creek. Yeah. The coordinates. In some studies of place names, the author offers a description. I prefer to offer the coordinates because nowadays you can easily check them by Google Maps or any other application, and even you can go there with Street Viewer, and you can check the physical characteristics or any other kind of characteristics of the place with your own eyes instead of relying a description. I think it's easier and at the same time more accurate way of offering the information. I also put some other existing names, if they exist, not always, yeah, but some places they have different names. For example, Ayuntamiento de Manila inside Intramuros. It's also the National Treasury Bureau, yeah, I think so. And the last thing that I put is the translation, which is Lily. Okay, Lily. This is a point, and Lily Azucena. Finally, in some cases, if I need to add some specific notes, I do so at the end between square brackets. In the case of Azucena, I couldn't see that creek, but an informant refers to a hidden creek under the Azucena Street, which has the same name. I think that was in Valenzuela. And here down we have the map of the La Moneda, which is, believe me, the best source I could find to understand what happened with the Hispanic place names after the colonial Spanish period. This is not the original. This is squared, and I did the squared by myself in order to focus, in order to point the different square where the place can be found. So intramuros, D4, E4, right? Just in order to help the reader of the research to find a specific place if she's interested. So let's continue. This is just the methodology. Let's continue with some results. Well, first of all, historical results. One of the chapters, one of the parts of this study is to analyze the evolution of the place names of Manila since 1898, since the end of the Spanish colonial period. So I took this from a map I show you. I extract all the items, and then I researched it. I researched if they were preserved or not, and then I also classified them according to the language in these three different families. Hispanic. I prefer to say Hispanic and not Spanish because we also have Mexican vocabulary. Tagalog and Chinese. So here we have the data. Just I would not read you all this data because that would be so boring. But in short, we have in this map 376 linguistic items. Among them, 206 are preserved, while 117 and 70, sorry, they are not preserved. They are lost. So basically, around 55% of the names are preserved and around 45 are lost. If we focused on the languages, we have that the map shows 320 Hispanic names, 168 are preserved, and 152 are totally lost. They are not preserved anymore. If we focus on Tagalog names, we have 53. Interestingly, 38 are preserved nowadays, but 15 are totally lost. And Chinese names. Some authors, they say that there is no Chinese name in Manila, and that's false. In the map, we find 3 Chinese names like Sanglei, Sangleyes. That comes from the Chinese Sanglei, if I pronounce it well, I don't know. But it means a person who comes, a person who goes, and from there, a trader, a Chinese trader. So, this is basically the data. And then, if we focus on the new names that have substituted, that have replaced the non-preserved names, we have a very interesting thing. Most of the non-preserved names are Hispanic. Yeah. So this table must be difficult to show and to analyze just in 5 minutes here in a lecture. But the very basic idea is that 55% of the names are preserved, 45% are lost. But among these 45% of lost names, around 70% of new names are still Hispanic. We lost a lot of names, not only Hispanic, also Tagalog, also Chinese, but the new names that appear are mostly Hispanic. Why? The reason is that um, during the 20th century, in the born and the development of the new Filipino nation, streets and many other places were named according to relevant personalities and celebrities, politicians, journalists, artists, people important for the Filipino nation. And these people, they have names and family names that are Hispanic. They have Hispanic names and family names. They are, technically speaking, Hispanic eponyms. So we have, for sure, Rizal, we have Aguinaldo, we have Bonifacio. Yeah, they are Hispanic names and they populate the city nowadays. Why these names are Hispanic? As we all know, the main reason is the famous Decreto de Narciso de Clavería y Zaldúa, according to which Filipino people were forced to adopt a family name, and Zaldúa offered a catalog, a book of different possibilities for a family name, and most of these family names were Hispanic. So that's basically the reason, the final reason. But it's quite interesting and at the same time challenging. Okay, this is just the historical analysis, just an abstract of the historical analysis. But let's go with the social results. Okay, it's not just about history. It's not just about the proportion of the names and how many of them are lost, how many of them are preserved. It's also about how these names show us the social life of Manila in the past. So we have names like Intramuros, we have names like Palacio del Gobernador, we have names like Muralla, we have names like Santiago, Fort Santiago, Fuerte de Santiago, we have names like Jaboneros, Panaderos, even a municipality, Pateros. Okay, they refer to social activities, all of them. And if we classify social activities according to different types, we have that there are a total of 14 place names referring to public administration and government. 11 of them are in Intramuros. There are 41 military place names. 32 of them are in Intramuros. Fuerte de Santiago, Fuerte de San Gabriel, Rebellín, Falsabraga de Media Naranja, Muralla, a lot of them. There are 9 financial names referring to financial activities. 7 of them are in Binondo. Most of them are in Binondo. We have Rentas, Finanzas, Banco, Muelle del Banco Nacional. We also have 61 working class place names all over Manila. They are all over Metro Manila, but they still follow some patterns. So, for instance, just an example, jaboneros and lavanderos, washers, yeah, where to do the laundrymen, yeah, the laundrymen, laundrywomen. They are in Sampaloc, lavanderos in Sampaloc. Why? Because it's close to Binondo, and the new upper class born in Binondo, the bourgeoisie of Binondo, went to Sampaloc in order to wash their clothes, or to get, better said, to get their clothes washed. Yeah, that's why lavanderos. So these names still show us some social information, and they follow some patterns, the working class names. If we focus on non-profit activities, we have 10 names, and most of them are in Paco, San Miguel, and San Palo, that is surrounding the powers, still in the center of Manila, not the real center, not Intramuros, not Binondo, but still in the center. If we focus on transport-related place names, we have 15 place names. Most of them are outside in the borders of the historical city. In the borders of the current Metro Manila. That means outside the historical city. The same for rural place names in the outskirts. On the outskirts, they are 21. Leisure place names. Depending on the kind of leisure, they are placed in some areas or in others. So upper class leisure options are close to Intramuros and close to Binondo, or close to the center. So we have Hipódromo in Santa Mesa, and we have Hipódromo also in Makati. But if we go to more popular or traditional leisure options, they are outside. We have Matadero in Malabon, and we also have Matadero, that means squatter house. And Pelota, Hayalay, just the place where the typical Spanish game that was also popular in the Philippines, Pelota. That's the one that is akin that tennis play against a wall. Was played, and that's in Las Piñas. That's very interesting because in that Hayalay, in that Pelota court, has been substituted, has been replaced. I mean, inside they have built a skate park, which is more the American tradition. But when I went there, they were dancing K-pop. So in the same place, originally culturally speaking, Hispanic place. It was replaced inside by a more American place from pelota to a skate park. And finally, people there were not doing pelota, they were not enjoying the skate park, but they were just dancing K-pop. That was an anecdote. It was funny for me to see that. But anyway, just in short, social results. I set a lot of figures and places and so on, but very easily, in a nutshell, what the social living place names of Metro Manila show us is that Intramuros was the core and the heart of the historical city, where we have all the powers at that time. We have the political power. So we have Palacio del Gobernador, Ayuntamiento de Manila. We have the religious power. So we have Palacio Arzobispal, Catedral, and we have the military power. So we have Al Fuerte de Santiago, Fuerte de San Gabriel. We have Muralla, and we have a lot of rebellines. We have also Falsabra de Media Naranja. We have a lot of military place names. That is, the place names related to the different powers during the colonial times, the Spanish colonial times, are in Intramuros. But if we go outside in Minondo, what we find are the bourgeoisie, that are the new upper class place names. So we have finanzas, we have rentas, that is, finances, incomes, banco, the new upper class, the one that became very important during the end of the Spanish colonial period and during the American colonial period. So, uh, if we go outside this circle of Binondo and Intramuros, we find working class names. We find jaboneros, pateros, panaderos. We also find non-profit place names: Gota de Leche, Protección de la Infancia, Drop of Milk, just an orphanage, and the hospital in the Pasig River in the Isla de Convalecencia, for instance, right? Convalencia nowadays. And if we go even further, we go outside, we find rural place names: Potrero, even in some way Las Piñas could be. In Navotas, we find a lot of rural place names related to fishing activities. We have Embarcadero, we have Varadero, we have Pescador, fisherman, dock, yeah, in Navotas. So, and the last ring, the last step outside on the outskirts of the historical Manila are place names related to transport, as I was saying, and the rural place names, yeah. So in short, it is like a concentric distribution. The core, the heart of the city is Intramuros, and then we have the rest of the powers, and then working class people, and finally rural and transport, and basically the poorest people. Okay, if we continue to another aspect of this study of the place names of Metro Manila, what we find is also some geographical patterns. Basically, I split Metro Manila in 4 different areas according to a survey and a research done by the Japanese Cooperation Agency. So these 4 areas are Manila Bay, I mean the coastal area, the Guadalupe Plateau, Marikina Valley, and Laguna Markin, 4 areas. Basically, I found 52 fluvial place names, and they are located in Manila Bay and Guadalupe Plateau. Why? Because most of them are esteros. That is, estero is a Spanish word for a creek that is close to the sea, that discharge easily and quickly in the sea, that is in Manila Bay. We have 51 land place names related to the different accidents or physical features of the land of the territory. They are found all over Metro Manila, but with a more proportion in Marikina Valley, as this is more hilly and we have up and down hills and so on. Even in the north, in Cuenca and La Mesa, which are 2 land place names, we find the spurs of Sierra Madre. So we find a lot of place names geographical place names describing the territorial characteristics. We have 16 urban place names. When I say geographical and urban at the same time, I refer to uh, urban place names that describes the territory. For instance, escalon, step. Okay, it's urban, it's made by the man, but at the same time reflects that there is a hill, a small hill in the area. Yeah, that's an example. I found 9 vegetation place names, basically on the outskirts of Metro Manila, of the city of Manila. A clear example is zapote, zapote, just a vegetal species introduced from Mexico. We have 6 sea place names, geographical place names related to the sea, 6. Obviously, all of them are in the area of Manila Bay, from Las Piñas to from Las Piñas Zapote to Nabotas. In Nabotas, we find a lot of them. And what else? I also added what I call an underground place name, which is El Depósito in San Juan. I mean, it's not really natural, but at the same time, it's in the cave and it's really large. Because of its proportion, its size, I decided to add it also as a feature of that territory. So basically, again, this is just a lot of data, a lot of numbers, so on. But basically, the idea is that we have more proportion of land, fluvial, and sea place names according to the geographical nature of the area inside of Metro Manila. Land, Marikina Valley. Fluvial, Manila Bay and Guadalupe Plateau. Sea, obviously Manila Bay. If we focus on farming, urban and vegetation place names, they depend more on the historical Spanish presence. Yeah, the more the Spanish built in the area, the more farming, urban, and vegetation place names we can find, especially on the outskirts in the case of farming and vegetation. Okay, and yeah, uh, just I would like to add that I had some issues, some small troubles in order to focus on the research when developing this research. So one of them is the demarcation for place names. I mean, how to extract a place name, how to say I'm gonna take this Hispanic place names, this Hispanic place name. This is a difficult matter. Why? Because we have a lot of place names. We also have short stores. We have stores, but I don't know, Maldita, a clothes store, or even frutas, it can be considered. But all of these are not really, they haven't sent a toponymical print in Metro Manila, okay? So they can change easily, they don't have a history, they don't occupy a large territory, so I decided not to include them. So how can I decide? How do I decide which one is included and which not? Well, first, I decided to get some criteria. If the place name was alive before Manila's battle in 1945, then I add it. Second, if it is big enough, and when I say big enough, more than a block, then I add it. Third, if it is socially, politically, or in generally public relevant, like a hospital or a sports facilities, then I add it. The criteria for adding the names to this list is that it has a history before Manila's battle in 1945, it's big enough, larger than a block, or it's public or socially relevant, right? Sometimes it was difficult to classify some names as Hispanic, as Spanish or Tagalog, because Tagalog borrowed many words from Spanish. So we have humildad, trabajo, disciplina, respeto, Spanish words that are also used in Tagalog. So are they Spanish? Are they using it because they are Spanish or because it is Tagalog? What's the final reason? Anyway, this is a Hispanic study, so I decided to include them, but I add as a label, as a final remark or note in the entry, that it's coincident in Tagalog. What else? Sometimes surveys are not reliable. I had some reliability troubles, reliability problems. Puente Colgante, I had an informant that stated that totally affirmed that Puente Colgante was still alive, still present as a place name. But as you know, Puente Colgante, the hanging bridge of Manila, disappeared in the 30s. Yeah. So I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I decided to go straight to the place and to ask the people there if they still conserved, if they still preserved the name of Puente Colgante, and they finally told me that it wasn't preserved anymore. In order to make the analysis, I focus on the meaning, on the historical meaning of the places. So we have La Loma, yeah, the hill, because La Loma it's in a hill. That's the largest cemetery of Metro Manila and its surrounding districts. They have the name of La Loma. We have Tripa de Gallina because it resembles uh, it's a lupi. A lupi it resembles to the gun of hen, to the gut of hen, the stero. Yeah, it's very loopy. So they are useful. I mean, they are suitable. But another example is estrada. Estrada that can be also street or road in all Spanish and other Hispanic languages like Galician. But estrada, which is estrada, a street that is in Alate, does not get its name because there is a street or there is a road. It is because of a politician. So it has no direct relation to the physical features and characteristics of the territory. So I decided not to include it. Yeah. So eponyms sometimes are tricky and they are difficult to analyze. Another example is apacible. Apacible doesn't refer to calm, relaxing, chilling. No, it's a meaning, but it doesn't refer to that. It refers to a politician, a former mayor of Manila. So I had to study all of these names in order to focus on which of them really describe the territory. I also had some troubles about traffic issues. Some places are written in many ways. The typical example are some numbers. Cinco. I found cinco written in the Spanish way. Cinco with G and K. Cinco without G. A lot of different solutions. So I decided to, yeah, I normally marked all of them and I brought down the most popular option. And apart from these studies, I also decided to make a study about the place names, the major place names of Spain in Metro Manila. That is the Spanish cities, regions, provinces, and islands that are present in current Manila map. More kinda anecdotic, or I don't know how to call it, not really linguistically interesting, but anyway, there are some interesting patterns too that also show us how Manila is growing up, is developing, and it's getting urbanized in some way, in following some patterns. So, in conclusion, what I want to say is that this list has 4,712 place names that currently I have already developed all of the study, also the different chapters talking about the historical place names, the social place names, and the geographical place names. And this other one I told you about the major place names of Spain in Metro Manila. And I'm actually writing the introduction, which is the last thing, and I want to have the whole study totally completed by summer, probably by June, July. So before all the global population, at least in Spain, are vaccinated by COVID. Yeah? So I want to have it before the epidemic ends, although I would like to finish it as soon as possible, of course. And just this is basically then. Now I will give you a turn for answer for questions, and I will reply any question, any concern you may have. Just I would like to end in the same way I started. Thanking Ma'am and Professor Pagalilawan for inviting me to set this talk, and also thanking Royce for the Professor Lim for the wonderful introduction he's developed. And in general, thanking the whole UST and the Department of Modern Languages for giving me the 3 best years of my life.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. It's really very interesting. Your topic is really very interesting, and we were enlightened by your lecture. And I think majority of the streets in Manila were named after, not only in terms of proper and common noun, and that's the meaning of a vibrant community during the time of Spanish colonial period. And I think we can describe it too that without the Spanish colonial government, we do not have Manila right now. And I think, majority of these developments were made by the Spanish colonial government. And we are really very grateful about it. And actually, it's not only in Manila. We can see a lot of Hispanized places, the names of the places in the different regions. Just like me, I come from the northern part of Luzon. Majority of the names there were Hispanized. And even they were named after the prominent or famous people in Spain, like Queen Reina Isabella Segunda. The name of my province is named after Reina Isabella Segunda. That's why we call it Isabela. And then we have a lot also from the Dominican friars. So they developed the particular places in the north, like in Cagayan. So if you are familiar with the Claveria, Peña Blanca is the hometown of my marido. He comes from there. And majority of the places there were really named, were really Hispanized. And, your research is really another help no, to understand why these places are named like this. So it's not only, linguistically interested, but also we should know the origins of these places. And majority of your friends from the Knights of Rizal International Headquarters, daron un saludo para ti, Marco. So they said, "Hola, compañero, caballero, Sir Romero." So I think you are a member of this organization, Marco.
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am. It was in 29, no, 2018. It was, yeah. So I want to say hello to all of them too. And the same as I told you, I as promising and swearing that I will be back to Manila just for a proper goodbye, the one I couldn't have. I'm very sad about that. The COVID pandemic. About what you were saying, Professor Pagalilawan, you are totally right. I mean, this is not a linguistic study or identitary study or a political study. It is not. I mean, this study is really interesting in order to understand the society
Yes.
of the Philippines in the whole scope, not just obviously the colonial relations, sure, but not only, much more. We can talk about the soap makers, jaboneros. We can talk about pateros, the duck racers, and the custom of the balut in pateros. Yeah, the historical custom, the historical attitude of eating balut in pateros, duck racer. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's much more. Or we can also see how the geographical place names describes the territory. La Loma, there is a hill. Laguna, there is a lagoon. Yeah. La
Mhm.
Mesa,
Okay.
there is a plateau. Cuenca, there is a valley. We have all of these names in Manila. They describe the territory and they offer very interesting information, and as well as the social. So it's much more than linguistics. It's much more than ideology, politics, or any kind of indication. It's just description of the history and the territory. And you are totally right. This study is being conducted in Manila, but it can be
Mhm.
applied everywhere in the Philippines. There is very little or no study of place names, general study, deep study of place names in the different places of Manila. So it is a mine for researchers, linguistics, but also historians to do so. We have not only Hispanics, yeah, we have a
Mm-mm.
lot of place names of the native languages of the Philippines. So we have a lot of information there that we can still study a lot because place names are not just the cities or the barangays or the provinces. It's also this small hill there or that small field or that building. They have names, and these names offer information about the history of our country, and also the reality. Yeah, so there is a lot of things to do there, extremely interesting. There is a whole country for that, and yeah, it should be done. Yeah, it's yeah, sure, completely. Actually, I love place names. Yeah, what can I say? And
Yeah.
you said your husband is from Peña Blanca. I was there
Yes.
visiting Callao Cave. Callao Cave.
Ah, Canlaw Cave. Yeah,
Callao
Callao.
Cave.
So they call the locals there, they call it Canlaw Cave, no? So
Yeah,
yeah, have you seen the cathedral inside the it's not a cathedral, a chapel. It's a cathedral like inside the cave.
yeah,
Okay.
I've seen it. Yeah. And also at the beginning, the burial when they found the Callao man just a few years
Mhm.
ago, and the
Yeah, the
chapel.
Homo erectus man, they describe it as it came from the Homo erectus man, the first prior to the Palawan man or found in the Palawan cave. So you've been there too. Now, how
Yeah.
about there is also a description like arroceros. So arroceros. So actually now they do not remember it anymore because Arroceros now is the SM SM Mall. So that's at the back of Manila City Hall. So before
Yeah.
they called it as Arroceros. So because that's outside Intramuros, because the first settlement of the Spanish group after they moved from Cebu. Yeah, they went to Intramuros. So that was the first development of the Spanish colonial government. And the team of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi was really successful because they were looking for a place where they can have a trading system, a trading entrepot. So they were successful in developing Manila because when they were in the part of the Visayan Islands, no, Baclayon, which is Bohol, Cebu, there were no developments and in terms of income generating activities. So it wasn't helpful for the Spanish colonial government to stay there for too long. So they decided to transfer their uh, government to Manila. And actually Manila became the symbol of their vibrant community. And actually, your research is also, we can connect it with the different topics, just like
Yeah.
what I am doing right now, Las Palabras Parecidas. So maybe we can have a citation, no, from your topic because it's really interesting. And we are really very grateful to you because you remind us about the whole thing because here in the Philippines we do not know anymore the value of history, the value of when the Spanish colonial government established their uh, government here and helped the Filipinos. They do not know that anymore, no, because yeah, in our present situation we have to rectify the things that we cannot see in the history books. And I am really very grateful because of your interesting research, Marco. I hope you continue to do uh, topics like that, no? Especially here in the Philippines. No, there are lots of topics to rectify in relation to Spanish colonial government. And actually, until now, the Spanish government is they have been very helpful to us. No, without AEC, hindi ka
Yeah.
namin nakilala, 'di ba? Okay.
Wow.
And you did not help our students to be an auxiliar in Spain, and they are enjoying their estancia allí en España. So we have a lot of support from your government, not only in terms of cultural development, state development, a lot. No, we receive a lot from you. So that's why until now, no, os agradezco siempre para, por apoyarnos siempre, no, todo el año tenemos muchos regalos desde España. Como tú, es un regalo para nosotros, Marco.
Maraming salamat.
Wow.
Maraming salamat sa lahat ng Pilipinas. Siempre asigurado Pilipinas sa puso ko.
Nasa puso. Alam niyo, hindi niyo maitatanong si Marco lahat ng lengguwahe, marunong si Marco. Sa bawat pupuntahan niyang lugar, pinag-aaralan niya po ang mga wika, no? Il
Siyempre,
parle francais, marunong siyang magsalita ng Pilipino, baka pagdating ng araw, Vietnamese also. What's the language in Vietnam, Marco?
Vietnamese. Vietnamese.
Vietnamese. So it's a combination also of French and Vietnamese language because Vietnam was part of
Yes.
France. Okay.
It's a bit
So
more difficult than Tagalog. It's a bit more difficult, Vietnamese, because they have tones like Chinese language. So for me to pronounce the tones, it's getting complicated, but I'm trying. I'm trying.
okay. Okay, may mga tanong pa or but they said your topic is really very interesting. And from Sir Maturan, he said probably places that remind them of Spain, Nueva Ecija, Nueva Cáceres, Almansa, Pamplona. You can still continue with your description, Marco, about these places. No?
Yeah, I mean
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of yeah. I mean I just chose Metro Manila and I did what I could because it's a very large area, but you can do the same everywhere in the Philippines or almost everywhere. It's
Mhm.
amazing, and especially yeah, we can focus on these kind of names: Pamplona, Nueva Ecija, which refer to Spanish names, Spanish place
Mhm.
names translated into transferred into the Philippines. Ecija is a village in or a city in Spain.
Mhm.
Pamplona also a city, but we can also focus on the more geographical. For instance, I'm thinking about Pico del Oro. Pico del
Yeah.
Loro in Ternate, Cavite, and Nasugbu, in the border between Ternate and Nasugbu, claro, Pico del Oro,
Mhm.
Parrot's Peak, because if you look at it, it's like a parrot's peak, yeah. It
Uh-huh.
describes you the territory too. So you can find it everywhere, and obviously this is just about Spanish, but because it's the
Yeah.
language I know. But for the people who knows the local languages, they have a
Mhm.
mind to study there and to find out why they said these names. Because even if Spanish is lost in the Philippines, and even if the local languages are getting lost, the place names will be preserved, will remain.
Yeah.
As we have in Spain, we also have, as I told you at the beginning, we have Celtic names more than 2,000 years old. The language is lost. The people are not present anymore there, but the place names are preserved because they are fossils. They are fossils. Yeah, that's why it's so interesting.
There's a question here, Marco, from Professor Lee Mark. So it says here, Senor, there is oftentimes a relationship between geographical characteristics and the culture of people in that place. did you encounter in your research in Hispanic place names in the Philippines that reflect the geographical characteristics, this kind of relationship?
I tried in my methodology, I tried to be very analytic, just go to the point and the description, but it is impossible not to mention it, and I mention it. Yeah, I already mentioned it. For instance, the one I was thinking about La Loma. Why La Loma? Why the cemetery is in a hill? Because the top side of the city is a holy place always. The top side is always holy. It's closer to the sky. So the city of the deceased people, the city of the dead, and also the big churches are always up the area because they occupy a holy place. That's why La Loma Cemetery. This is a typical schema in many places in the Hispanic world, also there in Manila. That's why we find the cemetery in the hill, in La Loma, and that's the name La Loma. So there is a social relation with the geographical relation. Yeah, I mean, I try to be always very analytic and describe, and then to give the reader the option to develop his own ideas. But it is impossible to mention this kind of information, of course.
Okay. And aside from that, Marco, not only with, in terms of name, if you still remember, during the colonial period, Spain developed a kind of, community wherein everybody has, an access, no? It's an easy way to go to some places, no? I forgot the term. How do they call it? It's in the historical development of places. So where the pueblo has mercado, ayuntamiento. So the type of poblacion, no, they
Yeah.
made during, and every when I was in Spain, I always remember why people call the place outside the downtown as pueblo, no? Okay, and then in that pueblo, you can see you have an easy access to mercado, to iglesia, to ayuntamiento. So when I was there, I lived in a small ciudad, or sometimes they describe it as a pueblo because there were only, I think, 5,000 families who are in their empadronamiento, no, in that place. So I can see there, I can see how they developed the Philippines now with that type of urban planning. And I can say that, Spanish planning is one of the best urban planning in the world, because they give access to everything: mercado, ayuntamiento, iglesia, instituto, guarderia, etc. Ah,
Yeah.
medyo nabago lang ngayon, 'no, sa Pilipinas because of the coming of the Americans, and they made it complicated, and we do not know where is the, residential area, commercial area. Unlike during the time of the Spanish, they have a very classified urban planning. So this is for the commercial areas, this is for the residential areas, this is for the, Plaza Mayor. And some of the students in the university, why do they call Plaza Mayor, why do they describe that as Plaza Mayor? So could you please explain why Spanish Pueblo has a Plaza Mayor, or Spanish Ciudad de España tiene una Plaza Mayor, Marco?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this kind of development of the urban planning, those was developed during the times of the King Felipe, and it has actually it's Hispanic. I mean, there it has a core, a heart, which is a square, a plaza, in which we have the power, that means the city, the town hall, but we also have the church, town hall and church. And we can find this kind of schema everywhere in the Hispanic world, not only in Spain, also in the historical cities of Spain, but especially in Latin America. And even if we go to the Philippines, we can still imagine that schema in Intramuros around Plaza Roma.
Mhm.
But if you go outside in the country to small places like Ternate, or even Zamboanga, I remember now, and another place in Siargao called Pilar. So they still have this planning of a square in which you can find the city hall, the church, the main church of the population, and then a square of streets. Yeah, and this is the Hispanic map, but actually is based on the historical Roman map with the Cardo de Cumano, yeah, and the Foro. And you can see that. I mean, it's Hispanic, but in general, I would say it's the Mediterranean styles. The same for the Portuguese who came here in Rio de Janeiro, where I am now, and the Italian style. They are quite similar, a bit different, but they are quite similar because they are heritage. They are Roman heritage, and many people, me also, we complain a lot when we go to the English cities because they are prepared, they are made to drive for the car. So you live outside in your own house, like The Simpsons, Springfield. So you need the car everywhere to go everywhere. And we prefer to go walking and to have all the services around us, to have the shop here, not to take the car to go to the shop, and to enjoy the park and to make more a social life and to have a terrace where to have a coffee, to drink a coffee or the breakfast with no smoke, with no traffic, with no noise, but in the street, enjoying the weather, the fresh weather in the morning. So we prefer that. We don't like the cars. We don't like this kind of city that for the cars. We prefer the current city, which is the heritage the heritage of the historical city, based on this square in the middle, streets around, but compact, so we can go walking everywhere, and we can do all of our lives walking. Just as a curiosity, as a matter of curiosity, there in Asia, we have two cities which are very close, and they have a similar political and historical status, that are Macau and Hong Kong. If you go to Hong Kong, you realize that that city is made for the car, except for the bay. The bay is more pedestrian, but the rest of the city is for the car. And sometimes it's very difficult to cross the avenue, and you need to take the sidewalk and so on. So it's more like a British city. But if you go to Macau, to the historical Macau, which are two areas, yeah, it's pedestrian, it's close, because it was developed by Portuguese in this fashion of we want to walk and we want to have a cafe or to smoke a tobacco at that time, just walking, relax in the street. We don't want to take the car to go everywhere. While Hong Kong is thought for the car. Even in Asia, if we focus Hong Kong versus Macau, we have the clear difference. In the case of Manila, what we have is, historically speaking, that city, but during the development of Manila under the American influence, and later on, and especially with the break of the Manila's battle in 1945, everything changed, and it's kind of fuzzy, it's fizzy. It's difficult to analyze Manila from a urbanistic point of view because it's really it's very difficult. And once you go deep into the site, because I needed to go deep into that matter in order to analyze, in order to do this research, I studied these things, and you realize that there are a lot of powers, political, economical powers, trying to develop some areas and not the others. So making holes and then connecting and not to connect, and then we make a bypass and then no. So there are a lot of different tensions, and it's very, very difficult to imagine, to analyze it. But the general idea is that, historically speaking, Manila would be more similar to current Macau. Yeah, for example, it would be more like the Hispanic city. We can still envisage it. We can imagine it if we go to some places, intramuros, but not only intramuros, also Paco Cemetery and surroundings, for instance, Paco also. But or even Rotonda in Malate also. But the general idea is that the urban Spanish plan is practically lost, and it has been substituted or replaced by another kind of planning in which the transport, the tricycle, the jeepney, the car is the protagonist, is the main character. And personally, I found it unfortunate, but yeah, that depends on many things. It's just a personal criteria.
Yeah. Actually, Marco, majority of our urban planners, they studied in Barcelona, they studied in Madrid, but it's a sad thing they cannot apply what they learned from these institutions to our present urban planning. So it's quite complicated. No?
Yeah, it is. It
Okay.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, Marco. Thank you very much for giving us lecture about your very interesting research. I hope we could do this in in the succeeding months. If you have if we would have another webinar like this, and we are waiting for your another research in terms of historical places in not only Manila, but also you can include other places too, no? For us to remember everything what the Spanish colonial government contributed to the development of the Philippine state. And thank you very much for giving us time to be with us. Okay, even if you are in Brazil now, yeah, you really enjoy Brazil right now, right?
Opo, Brazil, mabuti dito sa Brazil. Mabuti po sa Brazil.
So walang COVID sa Brazil ngayon?
Merong COVID, merong COVID, merong COVID. Merong
Meron
COVID
pa
sa
rin.
Brazil,
Okay.
pero merong COVID sa lahat. Sa Espanya, sa Brazil, sa Pilipinas, sa Vietnam.
Lahat,
Bueno,
oo. So dapat matapos na para magkita-kita tayong muli. So okay, muchas gracias Marco. And I would like to take this opportunity also to thank Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional for helping us to give a lector like you, Marco, and other lectors who supported the programs of promoting Spanish language in the Philippines, and also to the Consejería de Educación, Gobierno de España, for inviting all our university graduates to participate in the program sponsored by your government, Auxiliares de Conversación in English. So I am happy to tell you that we have two students who would like to be part of our department to teach Spanish language next school year. So they are the products of this program from your government. So you are really very helpful to us. Thank you very much, and I hope marami pang regalong matatanggap, biyayang matatanggap mula sa iyong napakabuti at napakabait na gobyerno, Marco. So I heard in the news the other day, Agencia Española de Cooperación International is giving us thousands of vaccines, no doses of vaccines to the Filipino people. Thank you very much, Marco. And before we end the webinar, let us listen to Vamos a escuchar el himno de la Universidad de Santo Tomas. Thank you very much, Marco.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming
Maraming
salamat sa
salamat. Muchas gracias. Ciao. Buen fin de semana.
fin de semana.
Okay.
Maligayang linggo.
Okay. Maligayang linggo sa iyo. Okay. Salamat.